Hi everyone, and welcome to my video about flagpoling. So, what the heck is flagpoling anyways? Well, it's a term for when a visa applicant who is currently in Canada drives to the US land border to readjust their immigration status and get a study permit or a work permit. Okay? It's the act of leaving, but not really leaving, so that you're not actually making an entry into the United States. Now, hopefully you're not totally confused, and by the end of this video, you're going to be an expert. Well, as much as I can make you one in a couple of minutes. So this video is going to dive deeper into what you need to know and why you should be careful, as there's certainly some risks associated with flagpoling, the same as any time that you go through a port of entry. I'm also going to give you some additional information and suggestions for when you should actually go and do a flagpole and what you're going to do when you're there. Now, just to be clear, and at the risk of sounding like an overcautious parent, I'm not recommending this for you, okay? You should only be doing this if you're properly prepared, because this could go sideways as well, and I'm going to talk about that. When you go to the US land border, you're going to be met by the US Customs and Border Patrol, and you're going to need to inform the US officer that you wish to return to Canada to change or update your immigration status. You can even use the word flagpole, as they usually know exactly what that means. Now, the officer is generally going to get on their radio and let some other officers know that you're here to flagpole. At that point, you're going to most likely be asked to park your car, they're going to hold on to your passports, and then you're going to be directed inside. What happens inside usually varies, but it generally tends to be just a lot of waiting around. However, you could be asked some questions, and in some cases, you may even be fingerprinted. Although rare, you might want to ensure that you have no outstanding business with old Uncle Sam, right? So that might be an uncomfortable day for you, all right? So, if everything's good, then you're going to be directed back to your vehicle and escorted and instructed to drive back to Canada. At that point, you're going to be met by your second border officer of the day, a CBSA officer who's on the Canadian side. You're then going to be asked how long you've been gone and what were you doing and all the other stuff that they generally ask you. And you're going to let them know that you want to apply for a work permit, a study permit, or you might even be landing for your PR. Okay? You're going to be directed inside, where you will present your paperwork and hope that your request will fall on favorable ears, or you may be told that it will not be processed, right? But more on that in a second. As of 2018, the CBSA has restricted flagpoling at the busier Canadian and US land borders, because quite frankly, too many people were just doing it. Usually, what we're seeing in and around the Toronto area is generally Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And there's restrictions that can affect you, as they're limited when you can flagpole, right? It can be detrimental if you have certain deadlines or an application requirement. As well, and more importantly, you may be told that the port is closed to flagpoling today, right? And they're going to refuse to process it. If you have any other issues that you're dealing with and serious border integrity issues, they're not going to do it, right? Because they have other things that they need to deal with, and they have a quota that they've met for the day, which they don't make public. So it can be a little bit of a shot in the dark and a little bit of luck. And if that wasn't enough, flagpoling can also be very risky. It can jeopardize a foreign national's legal status, and you may find that you've become inadmissible by doing something you didn't even know that you were not allowed to do. I can tell you over the years, I've had some few very frantic calls from people who had their passports seized and were told to get a ticket back to their home country by a certain date where their passport will meet them for their departure at a designated airport. In one case, the person was actually unaware that she did something a few years ago that she wasn't even aware of. And it was only under questioning that this became a problem. All right? So, I don't want to wrap up on a nasty note here, but I do want you to understand that there can be some issues with this, and I want to give you a few more things to think about. Firstly, you're going to need to speak to an officer about getting your document, and there's no guarantee it's going to get approved or you're going to get your permit. Okay? Well, some officers are okay to deal with, others are intimidating, and if you're not able to handle such an authoritative figure, then this can be a challenge, especially as everything is happening in real time and you're going to be standing in front of the person answering questions, and that person is going to be trained looking for indicators if something's off, right? So you got to make sure, even if you're nervous, you can give off these things, and you know, they might drill into you. Secondly, consider seeking professional advice from a licensed immigration consultant before attempting a flagpole. Now again, I don't want to sit here and try to sell you on services in some weird way. I want to inform you, but again, this should not be something that should be taken lightly because it can go silly. A consultant can assess your eligibility and provide guidance on the best course of action based on your individual circumstances, and one of those might not be a flagpole. And more importantly, they may be able to find some issues prior to going to the border. I know when I do my border preparations for clients, I prepare them for all eventualities and give them different packages of documents that they can use depending on what's requested and how things progress. Thirdly is be prepared and organized. Make sure you have all the necessary documentation and information with you, such as a passport, visa application, and supporting documents. The officer can ask for whatever they need to decide, and you must anticipate this as you're the one who's making the application and you gotta be prepared. While being prepared and organized, know what to bring and know what not to bring. Don't bring any documents that could raise any red flags or cause any officer's suspicions, even if they're nothing. You may want to consider not bringing a phone with you, as they may have a look through there, and some of the more devious ones might try to, make lemonade out of lemons, so to speak, right? And it might not work in your favor. Lastly, and most importantly, be polite and respectful to the border officer and always answer their questions truthfully, directly, and accurately. And do not get too chatty with them. Just answer what's asked, then stop, as I've seen some officers try to dig around in your words and twist things around. Heck, somebody tried to do it to me on the US side once, and it really was unnerving, but I just stood my ground, obviously, because I wasn't intimidated by it, right? But some of those interactions can be quite intimidating. So, flagpoling can be a useful tool to expedite your visa paperwork and processing, but it's not without risks and challenges. It's important to weigh the pros and cons, seek professional advice if you deem fit, and be prepared and organized if you decide to go on flagpole. As always, guys, I really appreciate you watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can be alerted to some informative videos, not only about getting to Canada, but doing well here. So again, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.